Live from Simi Valley, California, this is BBC News. Republican presidential candidates are taking to the stage this hour for a second debate to make their case to voters. Notably absent is party frontrunner Donald Trump. He's in Michigan speaking to auto workers there. Meanwhile, the US soldier who crossed into North Korea is back in American custody. Hello, I'm Caitriona Perry and you're very welcome on site here at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, scene of the second Republican presidential debate of the 2024 US campaign. Just moments ago, the second GOP presidential debate began here. The debate, televised by the Fox Business Network and Univision, features 7 candidates. They were required to reach polling and donor thresholds set by the Republican National Committee. But for the second time in his 2024 campaign, the Republican frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, will not be taking part in the debate. The 77-year-old has suggested that sharing a stage with low polling rivals could only hurt his commanding lead. It comes as he faces mounting legal challenges and indictments, and all just 4 months before the Iowa caucuses begin that formally launch the GOP's nomination process. Well, Donald Trump is holding his own event tonight in Detroit, speaking to car workers and blue-collar employees, and we'll bring you more on that a little later, but let's stick with the debate for now. Earlier, I spoke with CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Let's take a look now at some other stories making news. GB News in the UK has suspended 2 of its presenters, Dan Wootton and Lawrence Fox, after comments Fox made on Wootton's programme Tuesday night about a female political journalist, which the channel said was completely unacceptable. Wootton apologised for what he called a very unfortunate lapse in judgment. The reporter, Ava Evans, said she feared for her safety. The channel has opened an investigation. In the Iraqi city of Hamdania, mourners gathered to bury the people killed in a fire at a wedding. More than 100 people died in the country's biggest Christian town. The fire started when flares ignited a ceiling decoration. The Red Crescent says hundreds more were injured. Storm Elias flooded parts of central Greece on Wednesday. Heavy rain in the city of Volos flooded several roads near the port there. Video shows vehicles trying to manoeuvre through the floods as emergency crews patrol the area rescuing trapped people. Landslides and power outages have also been reported in the region. You're live with BBC News. Well, as we were discussing earlier, former President Donald Trump is skipping the GOP debate here in California. Instead, he's been addressing workers at a plant in Michigan after touring a manufacturing facility. He's been talking about protecting US workers from foreign competition. OK, all right. Well, lots more to talk about on that, but we'll leave it there for the moment. Luigi, thanks so much for joining us. Just a quick programming note before we go. We'll have an hour-long look at the second Republican debate here in Simi, California at 11 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 a.m. in London. We're about 90 minutes from now. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Each year has been a record-breaking hot year.
Living with extreme temperatures and changing climates can have a devastating impact.
We are on a bullet train to annihilation.
We meet the people on the front line of climate change.
I know we've caused the problems, and I know we also hold the key to the solutions.
And find out how they survive it. Life at 50 degrees, watch on BBC iPlayer.
Live from California, this is BBC News. The second Republican US presidential debate is underway here in Simi Valley. And former President Donald Trump skips the debate again to visit blue-collar workers in Detroit, where a strike against 3 car makers continues. Plus, the US government moves closer to a partial government shutdown, with House lawmakers in a stalemate. Hello, I'm Caitriona Perry, live at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California, where the second Republican presidential debate is underway. We're in the middle of the debate that is taking place in the building behind me here, and already border security, immigration and crime have dominated the talking points, along with 2 people who are not there, US President Joe Biden and the leading 2024 Republican candidate, former President Donald Trump. The debate, televised by the Fox Business Network and Univision, features 7 candidates. They were required to reach polling and donor thresholds set by the Republican National Committee in order to take part. But for the second time in his 2024 campaign, Donald Trump isn't here. The 77-year-old has suggested that sharing a stage with what he deems low polling rivals could only hurt his commanding lead. It comes as he faces mounting legal challenges and indictments, and just 4 months before the Iowa caucuses begin that formally launch the GOP's nomination process. Donald Trump instead is in Detroit, where he's been speaking to car workers and blue-collar employees. That comes after Joe Biden became the first sitting US president to join a picket line on Tuesday at the invitation of the United Auto Workers, the union striking at 3 major car makers. Well, a little earlier, I spoke with CBS News senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Let's have a look at some of the other stories making the news. In the Iraqi city of Hamdaniya, mourners gathered to bury the people killed in a fire at a wedding. The blaze killed more than 100 people in the country's biggest Christian town. The fire started when flares ignited a ceiling decoration. The Red Crescent says hundreds were injured. GB News has suspended 2 of its presenters, Dan Wootton and Lawrence Fox, after sexist comments Fox made on Wootton's programme Tuesday night about a female political journalist, which the channel said were completely unacceptable. Wootton apologised for what he called a very unfortunate lapse in judgment. The reporter Ava Evans said she feared for her safety. The channel has opened an investigation. Storm Elias flooded parts of central Greece on Wednesday. Heavy rain in the city of Volos flooded several roads near the port there. Video shows vehicles trying to manoeuvre through the floods as emergency crews patrol the area, rescuing people trapped. Landslides and power outages have been reported. You're live with BBC News. In Washington, there's been no clear progress in efforts in the House to avoid a partial government shutdown by Sunday. Republican hardliners have been threatening to block the passage of spending legislation unless there are significant budget cuts. President Biden said key government services could be disrupted. Well, I'm Caitriona Perry at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library here in Simi Valley in California. Thanks for watching, and do stay with us here on BBC News. Take care now.
I'm Jordan Dunbar. I was a comedian and a drag performer in Belfast. I knew the scene.
It was just a regular Friday night.
As I chatted with Jimmy Carter and Bill Clinton, both of them wished me a happy birthday. So that was my beginning with American presidents.
I've seen the headlines. What did the boffins actually find?
Are you allowed to call them boffins?
With affection.
There's always more to the story with our podcasts. Listen on BBC Sounds.
Live from Simi Valley in California, this is a BBC News special on the second Republican presidential debate.
Important to primary voters.
Seven candidates have spent the past 2 hours making the case that they should be the Republican nominee for president. Notably absent was party frontrunner Donald Trump. He's been in Michigan speaking to auto workers there. Hello, I'm Caitriona Perry outside the Ronald Reagan Republican Library in California. You're very welcome. Well, the building behind me has been playing host to the second Republican presidential debate. 7 candidates took the stage. That's one fewer than last time when the party gathered in Milwaukee. The group fielded questions on topics like education, inflation, immigration and competition from China, among plenty of others. There were punches and jabs, counterpoints and lots of crosstalk. But with frontrunner Donald Trump sitting out the debate for the second time running, no one on the stage was in a position to deliver a knockout blow. The question will be, which of the candidates put in a strong enough performance to win over the voters? Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was asked who should be to blame in the event of a US government shutdown. He took aim at Washington in general and then at the current and former presidents in this debate on the Fox Business Network. Well, joining me now live are lots of experts, a panel of experts. Bracton Booker, national political correspondent at Politico. Matt Terrell, former chief of staff to the Marco Rubio presidential campaign. He's now managing partner at Firehouse Strategies. And Maura Gillespie, former aide to Congressman Adam Kinzinger. And before that, to House Speaker John Boehner. Thank you all for joining us. Whip around the panel and get a quick take from all of you as to what your instant thoughts were about what we've been watching for the last 2 hours. Bracton, we'll start with you. Okay, thank you for that, Bracton. We are going to say goodbye now to our viewers who have joined us on PBS. Thank you very much for staying with us. We'll have lots more on this on BBC News, and we will stay now with our panel here carrying on the discussion live from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library here in Simi Valley in California. Okay, so we're still joined by Bracton Booker, Matt Terrell and Maura Gillespie. Maura, on that point of the points that that Mike Madrid was making about where the Republican Party is at the moment and that focus on foreign policy, as we are here at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, and that was something that he cared so strongly about. Who impressed you in terms of what they were saying about foreign policy, particularly Ukraine obviously being one of the big issues at the moment? All right, well, we'll leave it there for tonight. Matt Terrell, Maura Gillespie and Dan Merrickall, thanks to you all for joining us. Thanks to our guests earlier as well. That's it for this special BBC coverage of the second US Republican presidential debate. I'm Caitriona Perry. We're here in Simi Valley in California outside the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Thanks to you all for tuning in. Thanks indeed for watching. Do stay with us here on BBC News. We'll hand off now to our colleagues in London and we'll leave you with these live pictures from London. Take care. Bye-bye.
Hello. Wednesday brought the first named storm of the autumn. Storm